Hi, it's Carolyn. I'm here to help you learn how to bake and decorate amazing cakes, and in this video I'm showing you how to make a banana cake using a yellow cake mix. So this is a doctored cake mix recipe. Why was that so hard to say? I usually make a banana cake from a banana cake mix, but banana cake mix isn't always available. So this is another option using a yellow mix. Now, before I get started, I just want to let you know that I'm making 1 1/3 of the batch of the cake batter because I'm baking it in 3 7-inch pans. I'm going to list the ingredients in the description for just one batch because I modified this recipe for the video. Now, I do have a couple videos talking about how I break my recipe down into thirds so I don't waste cake batter. Those will be linked in the description. But I frequently break down my recipe, that way I'm not wasting cake batter and all this money that I spent on my ingredients. So let's get started. All right, since I am making 1 1/3 of the recipe, I always reference my cake batter saver chart, and I will link this in the description for you, but I am going to need 580 grams of the cake mix. So I always like to reference this before I start baking so I know how much cake batter that I need. Now, I started steam baking my cakes, so I have 2 cookie sheets on the bottom rack, and I have 2 cups of water here, and I'm going to pour 1 cup of water in each cookie sheet. The steam baking really helps to keep your cakes moist. And then I'm going to preheat my oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Now I am going to list the recipe for one batch of this cake batter in the description for you, but since I'm making 1 1/3, I need 1 1/3 of all of these ingredients. So I'm starting with 1 1/3 cup of granulated sugar, 1 1/3 cup of all-purpose flour. I prefer all-purpose flour over cake flour. I have always used all-purpose flour, so that's what I prefer. I need 580 grams of yellow cake mix. You can use the yellow or butter recipe yellow. It's the same thing, but I need more than 1 box to measure out 580 grams. 1 1/3 cup of full-fat sour cream. Some super ripe bananas. You want the bananas to be brown on the outside like this when you're baking because it really brings out the flavor in the bananas. The number of bananas that you use is going to depend on how strong you want the flavor to be. I did end up using all 3 of these bananas, which was approximately 200 grams. 1 1/3 cup of whole milk. I prefer to use whole milk and full fat sour cream. That's where we get the fat since we are not using any butter or oil in this recipe. And since I'm making 1 1/3 of the recipe, I'm using 4 large eggs plus 1 extra egg yolk. So I use 1 whole egg per third of the recipe. So it's 1 1/3, so I'm using 4 eggs. And I always add 1 extra egg yolk per 3 eggs that I use. So since I use 4 eggs, I'm doing 1 egg yolk. If I was to use 6 eggs, I would do 2 egg yolks. I'm going to use about 3 teaspoons, which is 1 tablespoon of banana extract, along with 1 teaspoon of vanilla flavoring. And I have a NutriBullet. I find that the NutriBullet is the best way to mash up these bananas. You can also use a fork and just really mash them up really well if you don't have a NutriBullet, but you could just twist this on there and turn it on until it becomes a liquid. And it just makes it so much easier to do it this way. That way there are no large chunks in there. So I'm going to start by adding the sugar and the flour to the bowl. And then I have this scale here and I set my bowl on the scale. I'm going to turn it on, set it to 0 and make sure that the unit is set to grams. And then remember, I need 580 grams of this cake mix. So I'm going to pour in the cake mix until I get it to 580 grams, 581, that's fine, an extra gram. And now I like to put the banana and the milk both in that measuring cup. I like to add it at the same time. So I'm adding the banana and the 1 1/3 cup of the whole milk, and I'm turning that on low. So this is on the stir setting. It's the lowest setting, and I'm slowly adding this entire thing to the bowl. And then I'm going to mix it on low until it is completely incorporated. And look how beautiful that is already. And now I want to add the 1 1/3 cup of full fat sour cream. I like my sour cream to be cold. I find that if it is at room temperature, it's a little too runny, so I like to add cold sour cream. And again, I'm keeping the stirring on the lowest setting on my mixer, and then I'm going to add the eggs one at a time. You want to add the eggs one at a time so they evenly distribute through the batter. Now, I love having a tilt head mixer because I can lift this up and it helps to incorporate the egg a little better. And then again, I'm just going to keep adding one at a time. And I don't know if I mentioned before, but these are room temperature eggs. You do not want to add cold eggs to your batter. And once they are all incorporated, I am going to add the flavoring. So I'm doing 1 teaspoon of the vanilla, and I'm doing 1 tablespoon, which is 3 teaspoons of the banana extract. And again, the amount of extract that you add is going to depend on how much batter that you're making and how intense of a flavor that you want. So I have it on low just to get it incorporated. And then I don't like a scraper blade. I just prefer to scrape the sides and the bottom of the bowl myself. So before I turn it on to really mix, I want to make sure that I'm scraping everything off of the sides and the bottom of the bowl so everything can evenly blend together. Now, this is your banana cake batter here. However, she wanted banana chocolate chips, so I went and got my container of chocolate chips, and I'm adding about 3/4 cup of these chocolate chips. Now, I have a video showing you how I chop these up so they are in a variation of size, and I will link that below. And I'm turning my mixer on low just to incorporate them so they don't go flying anywhere. And then now I want to turn that up to about a 4 or 5 out of 10. And now I'm going to mix this for about 1 minute and 45 seconds. When you are doing doctored mix baking, you want to whip all of the ingredients together after everything is added. When you're baking from scratch, it's a little different. You want to really blend the butters and the sugar together and then not really mix too much after you add all of the ingredients. But by beating it like this, the doctored cake mix recipe, you're incorporating air into the batter, which is going to allow it to rise. Now I have my container of pan grease, and I have a video showing you how I make that. I will link that below. And I'm taking a pastry brush and just brushing a really thin layer of the pan grease on there, and then also on a heating core nail. That nail is going to heat the cake from the center so it bakes more evenly. So I greased the pans while that batter was beating, and it's been 1 minute and 45 seconds, and look how beautiful this batter is. And I always scrape the sides and the bottom of the bowl again before I fill the pans. I use 2-inch high cake pans, and I fill my pans 2/3 of the way full. I do like my cakes to bake a little bit over the top of the cake pan. That way I get a little bit more height out of my cakes because I don't have 3-inch pans. And now I am opening my oven, and I'm evenly placing these in the oven so there is air circulating around them. I made other cakes, so I put them in there as well. And I'm just going to check on them after about 40 minutes just to see how they are. And they usually aren't done. Now you can see the fan rotating. I don't bake on convection when I bake my doctored cake mix recipes. The fan usually turns as it's just heating the oven. It stops as it gets to the right temperature. And I am testing all of these. The larger ones are not done, but the smaller ones are. So I'm just going to remove them and then put them back in the oven for about another 12 minutes, and then 2 of these are done. So I'm sticking my cake tester in there. Nothing is coming off of that one, so that one is finished. That one in the back still needs a little bit more time, and the one on the right is finished. So I'm going to take those 2 out, and I'm going to leave that other one in there for about another 3 minutes to bake. So they usually bake at different times. They're never always done at the same time, but I always let them cool on my stovetop for about 5 minutes before I wrap them in plastic. Now I have this big roll of food safe plastic wrap. It's like 18 inches wide. It has a slide cutter, which is perfect. I'm going to turn the cake upside down, remove the nail, and lightly wrap this. I'm not wrapping it tight. You're going to distort the shape of the cake if you wrap it tightly. So I'm just lightly wrapping this plastic, and it's not going to melt. It's just going to kind of shrink wrap to the cake. And then I always freeze my cake layers. I freeze them upside down because I'm going to level off the top and I don't want to distort the bottom part of the cake. So there you go. There is the delicious banana or banana chocolate chip cake from a doctored yellow cake mix recipe. And again, like I said before, I usually make it with a banana cake mix, but this is a great option. You have to make sure that your bananas are super ripe because they really give that banana flavor when the peel is almost brown. They're disgusting to eat, but it's great for baking. Now I do have a recipe ebook that has all of my doctored cake mix recipes in it, and I do have the banana and the banana chocolate chip cake recipes in that book. However, that recipe is from a banana cake mix, and this is the yellow cake mix. And the link to purchase the ebook is in the description. So you may want to know what filling pairs really well with the banana or the banana chocolate chip cake. And I have made it with cream cheese filling, with Nutella filling, with just regular chocolate filling, with ganache filling, with peanut butter filling, and also just regular vanilla buttercream. And I also have a recipe ebook that has all of my buttercream, icing, and filling recipes that is linked in the description, along with my other recipe ebooks, which is my signature scratch pound cake recipes. And I also have my favorite numbers and my favorite fonts. So all of them are linked in the description. So that's just how I bake these cakes. If you want to see how I fill and frost my cakes, I will also link a video in the description for you. So I think that's it. If you guys have any questions or comments, leave them below. Please like this video if you liked it, and if you're enjoying my tutorials, I would be so grateful if you could buy me a coffee. My link is in the description. And I would love it if you would keep in touch on socials, and you could check out my website. And if you want to stick around, you can watch this video next, and hit subscribe and the bell if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching. I love you guys, and remember, it's cake, have fun. I will see you on the next one. Bye.